You're going to hear a lot today about a confidence motion that is about to be brought forward in the House of Commons by Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. So this is breaking news in Ottawa today, and I want to break it down for you, what's happening, what this confidence motion is, what the wording is, what it means, and what the likelihood of an election is. I need you to do two things for me before I break it down for you. Number one, in the comments, and I'm going to break this down, but the possibility of an election really soon just got a lot higher. So we need to be ready. For those of you who want an election and want to win, there's a link in the comments. It's a donation link. And guys, this is not the United States. There's no corporate fundraising. The way that we win elections in Canada is by donations, and even $5 helps. You can get tax receipts for certain amounts. And this is for my campaign, and my campaign, my riding association, often helps out candidates in other EDAs. So there's a link in there. I know you guys are struggling to make ends meet, but I got to do this because the chances of an election just got a lot higher. So the other thing I need you to do is share this video. When you share this video, it helps get this analysis out around the mainstream media. We know they're liberal. We know that there's news bans with C18. This is Justin Trudeau's news ban. So when you share these videos, you help me get the word out. Okay, let's break down this confidence motion, what's going to happen, and what you need to watch for. So this morning, it's Wednesday morning, so all the different party caucuses are meeting. Pierre Poilievre announced that the Conservative motion to test the House's confidence in the government, so essentially something that would trigger an election, is going to be very simple. It's going to read very simple and very cleanly that the House does not have confidence in the Prime Minister and the government. So it's really a choice for the NDP and Liberals now, or the NDP and Bloc to make. Are they going to vote in favor? Are they going to say they have confidence in Justin Trudeau and the Liberals or not? So there's no escape clause here. It's just flat out, do you support the government or not? Now, what's changed since the last confidence motion? Why is this important now? Well, you'll remember a couple weeks ago, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, he did this big stunt, right? He came out and he said, I am supposedly, I don't have confidence in the government, so I'm going to pull out of this agreement that I have with the Liberals. Now, a lot of media, a lot of you have been calling his bluff. Certainly, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has been calling his bluff, right? He's been saying, no, this is just a stunt. The NDP, if they're serious about this, if they're seriously not going to support the Liberal government anymore, then they need to vote non-confidence in the government. So this will be a big test for whether or not Jagmeet Singh was serious. Was he lying or not? Was he? What does this mean? Was he actually saying that he was ending his agreement with the Liberals, or is he going to continue to prop them up? A lot of people have speculated, because he's not eligible to receive his pension until after February of next year, that he's been looking for ways to try and extend the Liberal government so that he doesn't have to go to an election before his pension eligibility happens. So this motion, the way that Pierre Poilievre has very cleverly drafted this wording, it's very simple, it's very straightforward. They either have confidence in the government or they don't. There's nowhere to hide. Depending on what Singh does, it will really determine what the truth was in that statement. So that's the NDP. The other party that could continue to prop up this, corrupt, unethical, tax and spend government of Justin Trudeau is Yves Blanchette with the Bloc Québécois. So they've been coy. The Bloc Québécois has been, they've been like, well, I don't know. Now, to be very clear, the Bloc Québécois have voted with Justin Trudeau's Liberals on virtually every taxation measure. Some of the craziest things that they put forward, the Bloc Québécois has supported. But the difference between the last confidence motion and this one is that the Bloc Québécois just won a safe Liberal stronghold on the island of Montreal. They just had a surprise by-election victory. So if the Bloc Québécois think that their prospects of picking up seats in a general election in Quebec are good, they could vote non-confidence against the government. I want to be very clear in this analysis. Both the Bloc Québécois and the NDP, don't care about the average Canadian citizen. They're just looking at this from a political calculus perspective, right? The Conservative Party of Canada, for our entire time in opposition, we've been putting forward non-confidence motions. Because why? Because this Liberal government has had scandal after scandal. How many of you have had problems like either renewing your mortgage if you're lucky enough to have a house, or paying rent, or you've lost a job, or you can't afford groceries? Like, we have not had confidence in this government, right? Now the Bloc Québécois and the NDP, they're maneuvering. They're trying to figure out what's politically advantageous. But the Conservative Party, we believe that we need to go to an election specifically on the issue of the carbon tax, right? We know it increases the cost of everything. We know that the Liberals want it to skyrocket. That's going to make things so much more expensive for all of you. So this is why we're putting this motion forward. One of many reasons. Like, there's so many scandals that have, just proven that the Liberals do not have the moral authority to govern anymore. And I mean, even if you're watching this and you're a Liberal voter or a previous Liberal voter, but first of all, that's okay. I hope you'll consider voting Conservative this time, because this government, like this party, has just shown that they do not have the judgment to lead Canada, particularly at a time of need. So what are the chances of an election? I would say out of any time in the last parliament, this is like one of the best chances of an election coming up, because the Bloc Québécois win in Montreal. Certainly that bodes well for their chances in Quebec. Potentially, I'm just trying to get my head in the headspace of a Bloc Québécois member. But the NDP, I mean, if they're serious, their leader really painted them between a rock and a hard place. Because if they seriously are ending their agreement with the Liberals, then they'll vote non-confidence. They'll vote with us and say, let's go to an election. Let's have a referendum on the carbon tax. Let's do all of these things, right? So it's very uncertain, and we need to be prepared for an election. We do. I hope there's an election. Justin Trudeau is listless. He has no plan to address any of the issues: crime, inflation, the housing crisis. He has nothing to address this. We need an election. There needs to be a new government. You need to have a say on all of these things at the ballot box. Every Canadian does, regardless of their political stripe. We need an election now. That's abundantly clear. So, follow along. I'll be giving you analysis as much as I can over the next week. The timing of the non-confidence motion will happen probably the middle to late next week. I'll give you some updates here as we get more details on that. But again, the link in the comments on the donation, we got to be ready for a campaign. It's I talked to my campaign team this morning, and I said, look, we got to be ready, start looking for space. Think about getting the campaign signs out, all of those things. We have to be ready. But my appeal to you for donations is also, if you are a Conservative supporter, you want to see Pierre Poilievre as Prime Minister of Canada, we have to help Conservatives in non-held ridings. And that's a lot. My riding does that a lot. We have a history of doing that. So every dollar that you give us, it allows us to get our message out around Justin Trudeau's news bans and talk about the issues that matter to Canadians. In closing, let me just explain to you how this confidence motion is happening and what it means for the future. Because there was a news story, and again, it was super torqued. Yesterday, there was a bunch of headlines that read, Justin Trudeau will allow Conservatives to call a non-confidence motion in the House of Commons. What does that mean? What does it mean for Justin Trudeau to say he allows us to call a confidence motion in the House? So, during the budgetary process, and I'll try to simplify this as much as possible, the House agenda, like who sets the agenda in the House of Commons, there are allotted days for the opposition they're called supply days. They're part of this budgetary process, and that's the day when opposition parties control the agenda in the House of Commons through a motion. It's a bit oversimplified, but between now and December, Conservatives are supposed to get about 5 days, 5 of those days. And that allows us to put motions in the House of Commons, which require a standing vote. So, but the government House leader, so Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party, they're the ones who decide when opposition parties get these days. Now, typically standing practice means that those are sort of evenly distributed throughout the course of debate in sort of every month. It's a pretty regular thing. But in theory, what the Liberals could do is back end all of those days and prevent us from raising confidence in a desperate bid to hold on to power as they're, as they go down in flames. So this is a really tricky thing. It's why, the Liberal media was torquing this headlines like it was so benevolent, like, oh, Justin Trudeau's allowing us to do this. It's no, there's a high possibility that depending on what happens with this vote, that they could mess around with those days in the future, which is so undemocratic. And that's, it's so frustrating for me as a legislator to watch those sorts of things. But the Liberals have committed to having one of these votes next week. I'm sure that they're putting a lot of pressure and offering everything to the Liberals and to the Bloc. I'm now convinced that if like one of these parties told Justin Trudeau to print $50 billion, put it on the front lawn of the House of Commons and set it on fire, that he would do that in order to avoid an election at this point. So we know that there's probably a lot of greasy backroom deals that are attempting to be made right now. But I mean, look, if somehow, and it's not impossible, Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh is actually good for his word that he's ended his agreement with the Liberals and he votes non-confidence next week. And if the Bloc see an opportunity to gain seats in Quebec because of their by-election win and they vote non-confidence, then we will go to an election. I want to be very clear about the motivation here. We as Conservatives, we need change in government. Like there's no Liberal that can argue that Justin Trudeau's government is providing good government right now. We need the people of Canada to decide who gets a mandate at this point in time. Even the by-elections results show that Canadians want change, and we need to have an election. We need to have an election right now. So that's why we're moving this non-confidence motion. It's very clear. There's no preamble. It's just straight up, straight down. Do these other parties have confidence in the government? We certainly do not as Conservatives, and we could have an election. So share this video. And again, just one final appeal. I will be getting ready for an election. My team is getting ready for an election. And if you donate at a certain amount, there are tax credits available too. So please do that. Please share this video. The link is in the comments. That is your update for Wednesday morning from Ottawa. And as I get more information, I will share it with you here. So click subscribe. Working hard for you. Have a great day.